example, this weekend, I'm sure this is a punishment for raising this debate, I got 6 phone calls from New Delhi telling me the weather was good in Norwich, we'd just beaten Cardiff City, Delia was happy, she'd gone to Mass again, and everything in the garden was lovely. I had 3 silent calls as well. Now, you know, I've got a lot of tolerance in my life for things, you know. I'll even, you know, forgive my right honourable friend for missing open goals at times in the parliamentary football team. But sometimes my tolerance is stretched a bit when I get those silent calls and I get those people telling me what the weather is like outside my window. And, you know, you wonder what it's all about and why that happens and so on. At the end of the day, you get used to it and you live with it. And I think there's an apathy in this country that kind of suggests, well, that's the way it is, there's nothing much we can do about it.
It wouldn't be right to just to finish without talking about silent calls, which in fact was the subject of a Westminster Hall debate in March. The government target of 3% abandoned calls is very, very welcome. The fact that before the call is ended, there must be a recorded message, and the call must be accessed through a 1471 callback number. The fine has been increased from £5,000 to £50,000, but, and the very big but, is that regulation will not work unless it's actually enforced. And I'm very sorry to say that there's very little evidence that the criticisms which were levelled against Ofcom at that time about enforcing silent calls and other aspects, I've received no evidence to the contrary that that is not still the case, and I'm very hopeful that the Minister in his remarks will be able to reassure me and give me examples of cases where Ofcom has actually prosecuted somebody for these iniquitous practices which cost so much distress to local people. Thank you very much.
The silent cause has been raised both by the Honourable Member for Norwich North and by the Honourable Lady for Solihull, and without doubt this is an issue which we do have to do more to address. The Honourable Lady from Solihull referred to a debate earlier this year, and indeed there was also a statutory instrument towards the end of last year which addressed some of the issues relating to this. And I think what is extremely disappointing is that the issues which were raised there and the commitments which were given by the then Minister, the Member for Cardiff South and Penarth, have simply not been implemented. That he said that any abandoned calls must carry a recorded information message which identifies the source of the call. And my understanding is that Ofcom is no longer being rigorous about requiring that. And what the point which we all made at the time of that debate was then, what is the purpose of increasing so much the threshold of the fines if no one has ever been fined the lower level of the fine? And we were told, well, they needed a higher fine to make the legal actions and the work involved worthwhile. Well, that is now many months since that higher fine was implemented, and as far as I'm aware, still no action has been taken by Ofcom against a single person operating silent calls. People do feel extremely uneasy, particularly older people and particularly women, about when they receive a silent call. They find it something which makes them extremely anxious. And that it is little wonder, as the Honourable Lady was saying just now, that some 12 or 13 million people have registered their numbers with the telephone preference service to try and make sure that they don't get unwanted phone calls. But there are powers which are available, and I think we would like to hear from the Minister what more can be done by the government to make sure that they use those powers effectively.
I acknowledge the concerns that he and other ladies and gentlemen have made, and I'll just give way to the Honourable Lady from Solihull before I finish.
I'm very grateful to the Minister, since he's just about to conclude his remarks. He's kindly agreed to look into Ofcom's role in enforcing contraventions of the regulations. I too feel that, would agree with him, that regulation isn't necessarily what's needed, but it is enforcement of the regulation that we've got. And if he's not able to provide examples of where regulations have been enforced by Ofcom, I wonder at this moment, perhaps he would be good enough to write to me and just explain, you know, what what actions Ofcom has taken as a result of the same assurance that I received at the last Westminster Hall debate, which was earlier on this year.
Mr Honour, I'm grateful for that intervention. I should have said earlier that further to the research that my office will undertake, I'll be happy to write to the Honourable Lady and the Honourable Gentleman who have taken part or intervened in the debate.